Gone too soon. 20 black teen stars who died unexpectedly that will shock you. What if the brightest stars never got the chance to shine their full light? These 20 black teen icons were destined for greatness, chart-topping artists, beloved actors, cultural trailblazers, until tragedy struck. From bullets and overdoses to heartbreaking accidents, their lives ended just as their legacies began. Some were household names. Others were rising fast. But all of them were taken far too soon. Prepare yourself for the stories behind the headlines. Loudspeaker, hit that like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because on Legends of Black Excellence, we honor the voices gone but never forgotten. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, 22 years old, 2001. Aaliyah wasn't just a star, she was a once-in-a-generation talent whose presence transformed R&B, fashion, and film. Born on January 16, 1979, in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Detroit, Aaliyah signed her first record deal at the age of 12. By 14, she had released her debut album Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, an instant hit that showcased a voice far beyond her years. Her rise wasn't without controversy. Produced by R. Kelly, the album's title and the revelation of their illegal marriage sparked ongoing scrutiny. Yet Aaliyah persevered, matured, and redefined herself with her sophomore album One in a Million, working closely with Timbaland and Missy Elliott. That project sold over 8 million copies worldwide and introduced a futuristic R&B sound that became the blueprint for countless artists to follow. By the time she released her self-titled third album in 2001, Aaliyah had not only become a music icon but also a rising actress, with roles in Romeo Must Die and the posthumously released Queen of the Damned. She was poised to star in The Matrix Reloaded and was tapped for multiple Hollywood projects. At only 22, she had already accomplished more than most achieve in a lifetime. Tragically, on August 25, 2001, Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas shortly after filming the music video for Rock the Boat. Investigations later revealed the aircraft was overloaded and the pilot was under the influence of cocaine and alcohol. Everyone on board perished. Aaliyah's death stunned the world. Her funeral in New York City drew thousands of mourning fans, and tributes flooded in from artists, actors, and industry legends. More than 2 decades later, her influence remains potent. Artists like Drake, Rihanna, Normani, and Beyoncé have cited her as an inspiration, and fashion still echoes her signature sleek style, crop tops, baggy pants, and soft, effortless beauty. Aaliyah's legacy is not just in the music she made, but in the doors she opened and the boundaries she broke. Though her life was heartbreakingly short, the impact she left continues to shape pop culture today. Bobbi Kristina Brown, 22 years old, 2015. Born into fame on March 4, 1993, Bobbi Kristina Brown was the only daughter of music legends Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. From infancy, she was surrounded by cameras, chaos, and curiosity. Her early life was anything but ordinary, marked by privilege, paparazzi, and the pressures of being a child of 2 megastars. Her close bond with her mother was unmistakable. Bobbi Kristina often appeared by Whitney's side on red carpets, during interviews, and especially in the 2005 reality show Being Bobby Brown, where the world saw glimpses of her personality and the struggles of her family life. Following her mother's passing in February 2012, a death that deeply shocked the entertainment world, Bobbi Kristina's life seemed to spiral into a blur of grief, instability, and alleged substance abuse. She was just 18 when Whitney died, also found unresponsive in a bathtub, a chilling parallel to what would later happen to Bobbi Kristina. Devastated and seeking refuge in those closest to her, she began a controversial relationship with Nick Gordon, who had lived in the Houston household for years and whom she referred to as a godbrother. Their bond quickly turned romantic, prompting public concern and criticism. Despite public appearances and interviews where she vowed to honor her mother's legacy and pursue a music and acting career, Bobbi Kristina's life appeared increasingly troubled. On January 31, 2015, she was discovered face down in a bathtub in her Georgia home, eerily similar to her mother's death. After being placed in a medically induced coma, she remained unresponsive for nearly 6 months before passing away on July 26, 2015, at the age of 22. Medical reports later cited lobar pneumonia as the cause of death, complicated by drug intoxication and water immersion. Though no one was criminally charged for homicide, a civil lawsuit filed by her estate claimed that Nick Gordon had physically abused her and provided her with a toxic cocktail before she lost consciousness. He was found legally responsible for her death in a wrongful death lawsuit and ordered to pay $36 million in damages. Bobbi Kristina's passing wasn't just a loss, it was a tragedy compounded by fame, trauma, and the unresolved pain of losing her mother. Her story serves as a haunting reminder of the human toll of generational celebrity and the emotional fragility behind the spotlight. Chris Kelly, 34 years old, 2013. Chris Kelly, known as Mac Daddy, was one half of the 90s hip-hop duo Criss Cross, a pair of Atlanta teens who took the music world by storm with their infectious hit, Jump. Born on August 11, 1978, Kelly and his partner Chris Daddy Mac Smith were just 13 years old when they were discovered in a shopping mall by rising producer Jermaine Dupri. Their backward clothes and bold energy were the perfect storm for early 90s youth culture. Their debut album Totally Crossed Out, 1992, sold over 4 million copies in the US alone and made them international teen superstars. Jump stayed at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 consecutive weeks and became an anthem for an entire generation. At a time when hip-hop was still struggling to find acceptance in the mainstream, Criss Cross gave it a kid-friendly, high-energy face. Chris Kelly, with his signature swag and effortless flow, was central to that image. Though they tried to maintain relevance with subsequent albums like Da Bomb and Young, Rich and Dangerous, Criss Cross's fame gradually faded as their audience matured. Kelly, however, remained involved in the music industry, occasionally working behind the scenes with Jermaine Dupri and So So Def Records. As an adult, Chris Kelly struggled with drug use, a battle that he largely kept out of the public eye. Then, on May 1, 2013, he was found unresponsive in his Atlanta home and later pronounced dead at a local hospital. He was 34 years old. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as a drug overdose, involving a toxic mix of heroin and cocaine, a combination known as a speedball. His death cast a shadow over the legacy of Criss Cross and sparked renewed conversation about the pressures of early fame. Friends and collaborators, including Dupri, expressed grief and reflected on Kelly's talent and the weight he carried after the spotlight dimmed. Despite his struggles, Chris Kelly's impact remains undeniable. Jump is still considered one of the most iconic hip-hop tracks of the 1990s, and his influence is felt in the waves of youth-driven hip-hop acts that followed. His story is both a celebration of early success and a cautionary tale about what happens when childhood fame isn't met with lasting support. Fredo Santana, 27 years old, 2018. Fredo Santana, born Derek Coleman on July 4, 1990, in Chicago, Illinois, was more than just a rapper. He was one of the pioneering voices of the Chicago drill music movement. As the older cousin of Chief Keef, Fredo played a crucial role in shaping the gritty, unfiltered sound that put a spotlight on the violence and reality of inner-city life in Chicago. But behind the music was a young man battling demons that fame couldn't heal. Fredo's rise began in his late teens and early 20s. He became one of the founding members of Glory Boys Entertainment, GBE, also known as Glow Gang. His 2013 debut mixtape Trappin' Ain't Dead featured collaborations with artists like Kendrick Lamar and propelled him into the national hip-hop conversation. Known for his menacing delivery and raw lyrics, Fredo quickly built a loyal fanbase drawn to his unflinching depiction of street life. While Fredo projected a hardened persona, he was open about the emotional scars he carried. In interviews, he spoke about childhood trauma and the psychological toll of growing up surrounded by violence. These experiences, combined with the relentless pressure of his lifestyle, led to heavy drug use, particularly a dependence on lean, a mixture of prescription cough syrup and soda. By 2017, the consequences of his addiction were catching up. Fredo suffered multiple seizures that year and was hospitalized for liver and kidney failure. In a now haunting social media post, he acknowledged needing help and expressed a desire to seek therapy. Despite these public cries for support, on January 19, 2018, Fredo Santana was found dead in his Los Angeles home. He was 27 years old. The official cause of death was a fatal seizure, believed to be linked to his prolonged drug use. His passing sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. Fellow artists like Drake, Lil Durk, and Meek Mill mourned his loss, with many pointing to Fredo's death as a tragic example of how mental health and addiction are often ignored in the music industry, especially among young black men. Fredo Santana's legacy lies not only in his music but in the raw honesty with which he faced his pain. He gave a voice to a generation growing up in survival mode, and his story remains a stark reminder that success does not always equal healing. Jimi Hendrix, 27 years old, 1970. Jimi Hendrix redefined what it meant to be a musician, not just as a guitarist, but as a performer, composer, and cultural icon. Born Johnny Allen Hendrix, later legally renamed James Marshall Hendrix, on November 27, 1942, in Seattle, Washington, Jimi began playing guitar in his teens, teaching himself to play by ear. By the time he reached adulthood, his musical style had fused blues, rock, funk, and psychedelia into a sound that no one had ever heard before, and few have matched since. During his teenage years, Hendrix was deeply influenced by the likes of Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and Chuck Berry. He would spend hours practicing, imitating their sounds and techniques, eventually developing his own flamboyant style. Even in his early local gigs, he became known for playing the guitar with his teeth, behind his back, and sometimes setting it on fire, all while maintaining a mind-blowing level of musical precision. After a stint in the U.S. Army, Hendrix played as a backup guitarist for artists like Little Richard and the Isley Brothers before relocating to London in 1966. There, he formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience and quickly rose to fame with hits like Purple Haze, Hey Joe, and The Wind Cries Mary. His debut album Are You Experienced is still considered one of the most influential rock albums of all time. Despite his groundbreaking success, Hendrix battled inner turmoil. He struggled with the pressures of fame, racism in the industry, and a growing dependence on drugs. His performances remained electrifying, but behind the scenes, his life was unraveling. On September 18, 1970, Hendrix was found unresponsive in a London apartment. He had asphyxiated after ingesting a large quantity of sleeping pills and wine. He was just 27 years old, joining what would later be called the 27 Club, a tragic group of influential musicians who died at the same age. Even in death, Hendrix continues to inspire. His influence spans generations and genres, from Prince to Lenny Kravitz to modern rock and hip-hop artists. Rolling Stone ranks him as the greatest guitarist of all time, and his impact on music, fashion, and culture is immeasurable. Jimi Hendrix lived fast, played harder, and left the world with a legacy that proves genius knows no age. His teenage beginnings were just the prelude to a brilliance that still echoes decades later. Jared Anthony Higgins, Juice WRLD, 21 years old, 2019. Jared Anthony Higgins, better known as Juice WRLD, was a once-in-a-lifetime artist who spoke directly to the emotional struggles of a generation. Born on December 2, 1998, in Chicago, Illinois, Juice began making music during his teenage years, uploading tracks to SoundCloud under the name Juiceth Kid. His early music blended rap, emo, rock, and pop into a raw, vulnerable sound that felt both modern and timeless. At 17, Juice WRLD released All Girls Are the Same, which caught the attention of major labels and soon led to a record deal with Interscope. But it was his 2018 hit Lucid Dreams that changed everything. With its haunting Sting sample and confessional lyrics about heartbreak, addiction, and anxiety, the song exploded, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and racking up over 1 billion streams across platforms. Juice was more than just a chart topper. His 2018 debut album Goodbye and Good Riddance and its follow-up Death Race for Love in 2019 positioned him as a voice for Gen Z, especially those battling mental health issues. He was transparent about his own battles with anxiety and drug dependency, often referencing lean, a codeine-based drink, and Percocet in his lyrics. Instead of glorifying substance use, Juice framed it as a coping mechanism, exposing the pain behind the party culture. Tragically, just 6 days after turning 21, Juice WRLD died on December 8, 2019. He suffered a seizure at Chicago's Midway Airport, later confirmed to be caused by an accidental overdose of oxycodone and codeine. The news shocked fans and reignited urgent conversations about drug use and emotional health in the music industry. In the years since his death, Juice WRLD's influence has only grown. Posthumous releases like Legends Never Die debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and introduced his music to millions more. His estate launched the Live Free 999 Foundation, aimed at supporting youth struggling with mental health and substance abuse, carrying forward the mission Juice had only begun to articulate in his short life. Juice WRLD wasn't just an artist, he was a mirror for a generation. His honesty, creativity, and vulnerability redefined what rap could sound like and who it could reach. And though he left us far too soon, his legacy continues to heal and inspire. Davon Daquan Bennett, King Von, 26 years old, 2020. Davon Daquan Bennett, known to the world as King Von, lived and rhymed with a sense of urgency, as if he knew his time was limited. Born on August 9, 1994, in Chicago, Illinois, Von grew up in the rough neighborhood of Parkway Gardens, known locally as O Block. Like many of his peers, he was exposed to gang life at an early age and was incarcerated several times before ever stepping into a recording booth. Music became his second chance. Introduced to rap by fellow Chicago artist and close friend Lil Durk, Von signed to Durk's Only the Family, OTF, label. He released his first song, Crazy Story, in 2018 while still a newcomer to the rap game. The track quickly went viral, praised for its vivid storytelling, raw emotion, and Vaughn's ability to turn street tales into cinematic experiences. Unlike many artists who focus on punchlines or melody, Vaughn built his brand on narrative. Songs like "Took Her to the O" and "3 a.m." felt like mini-movies, immersing listeners in the chaotic world he had once lived. His 2020 debut studio album Welcome to a Block was both a tribute to his roots and a statement of artistic growth. The album earned critical acclaim and showcased Vaughn's versatility, mixing drill beats with introspective lyrics about loyalty, survival, and betrayal. But Vaughn's past was never far behind. On November 6, 2020, just a week after releasing Welcome to a Block, King Von was involved in a physical altercation outside a nightclub in Atlanta. The fight escalated into gunfire, and Von was fatally shot. He was just 26 years old. Surveillance footage and eyewitness accounts confirmed that Von was unarmed during the shooting, and his death quickly made headlines across the country. Von's passing was mourned deeply within the hip-hop community, especially in Chicago. Artists, fans, and peers reflected not just on his talent, but on how far he had come, and how much further he could have gone. His music, often criticized for its violent imagery, was also praised for its honesty and its ability to capture the complexity of life in marginalized communities. King Von's life was filled with contradictions, pain and potential, street life and stardom. But above all, he was a storyteller, one who gave voice to those often ignored. His legacy, though short-lived, remains etched in the evolution of drill music and in the hearts of those who saw his rise as a symbol of hope. Lee Thompson Young, 29 years old, 2013. For a generation of late 90s and early 2000s kids, Lee Thompson Young was a television icon. Born on February 1, 1984, in Columbia, South Carolina, Young showed signs of brilliance from a young age. He began acting in theater productions by the time he was 10 and pursued a professional career shortly after. At just 13, he landed his breakout role as the titular character in the famous Jet Jackson on the Disney Channel. The series, which ran from 1998 to 2001, followed a teenage TV action star trying to live a normal life in his small hometown, a clever blend of action, comedy, and heartfelt teen drama. Young's performance was charming, relatable, and wise beyond his years. He was a rare figure, a young black actor leading a primetime children's show with integrity and intelligence, offering vital representation to millions of viewers. After Jet Jackson, Young transitioned into more mature roles. He starred in Friday Night Lights, 2004, Smallville, Aquila and the Bee, and eventually joined the main cast of Rizzoli and Isles as Detective Barry Frost. Though not always in the spotlight, he maintained a steady and respected presence in Hollywood. Behind the scenes, however, Young was battling clinical depression, a struggle he kept private from even his closest colleagues. On August 19, 2013, Lee Thompson Young was found dead in his Los Angeles apartment from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was 29 years old. His death stunned fans and co-stars alike, as there had been no public signs of distress. His family later confirmed that he had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and had been managing it for several years. In the wake of his passing, the Lee Thompson Young Foundation was established to promote mental health awareness and remove the stigma surrounding mental illness, especially in the Black community. His legacy now extends beyond entertainment. It is also a message about the importance of emotional well-being and early intervention. Lee Thompson Young was more than just a teen star. He was a talented actor, a scholar, and a role model who left a lasting imprint on television and in the lives of young viewers. His quiet grace, both on and off-screen, continues to inspire conversations about mental health that are long overdue. Alexander Rutherford, Lil Yase, 25 years old, 2020. Alexander Rutherford, known professionally as Lil Yase, was a rising star in the Bay Area rap scene whose life was taken before his momentum could fully peak. Born on December 1, 1994, in San Francisco, Yase came up in the Sunnydale Projects, a neighborhood marked by both hardship and resilience. He began rapping in his teenage years, steadily releasing music on YouTube, SoundCloud, and regional mixtape platforms. By his late teens, he was already drawing attention for his raw energy, unique delivery, and loyalty to the Bay's signature sound. Lil Yase didn't rely on viral gimmicks or industry cosigns. Instead, he built a grassroots following through consistent output, including underground hits like Get It In, Furl, and No Diss. His music was gritty and personal, reflecting the realities of his environment without glorification. He often collaborated with other local artists, including Neff the Pharaoh and Sage the Gemini, and was praised for shining a light on often overlooked parts of the West Coast hip-hop landscape. Yase's growing buzz led to features on notable rap blogs and local radio, and he was viewed as one of the next major artists to emerge from Northern California. His work ethic was relentless, dropping multiple projects in a single year and frequently engaging with fans online. His last project, Winner's Circle, released in 2020, showcased his evolving artistry and hinted at broader commercial appeal. But on November 28, 2020, just days before his 26th birthday, tragedy struck. Lil Yase was shot multiple times and found dead near a Bay Area train station, miles away from where he was last seen. Details surrounding his death remain unclear, with no confirmed motive or public arrest, leaving fans and peers with more questions than answers. The news sent shockwaves through the Bay Area hip-hop community. Fellow artists paid tribute online, sharing memories and mourning a voice that many believed was on the cusp of national success. For many, Lil Yase represented both the promise and peril of trying to rise above one's circumstances. Though his life was brief, his dedication to his craft and his authenticity earned him respect beyond his local scene. Lil Yase's story is a poignant reminder of how fragile that climb to success can be, and how even the most promising artists can be silenced before the world hears everything they have to say. Merlin Santana, 26 years old, 2002. Merlin Santana was a charismatic and gifted actor whose smile lit up television screens in the 1990s. Born on March 14, 1976, in New York City to Dominican parents, Santana started in the entertainment industry at a remarkably young age. He began as a child model and soon transitioned into acting, making early appearances on shows like The Cosby Show where he played Stanley, the young boyfriend of Rudy Huxtable. But it was his role as Romeo Santana on The Steve Harvey Show that turned him into a teen heartthrob. Premiering in 1996, the show cast him as a smooth-talking, stylish high school student who delivered clever one-liners and had natural chemistry with the cast. Viewers adored him for his charm, comedic timing, and undeniable presence. Santana embodied the cool, funny best friend archetype, yet managed to give it depth and sincerity. Before that, he had memorable roles on Getting By, Under One Roof, and Moesha, steadily becoming one of the most recognizable young black actors of the decade. By his mid-20s, he was not only popular but respected for navigating child stardom without scandal. He was planning a broader career in both acting and music, aiming to take creative control of his narrative. Tragically, Santana's promising future was stolen on November 9, 2002. While sitting in a parked car with a friend in South Los Angeles, he was shot in the head and killed instantly. He was just 26 years old. Authorities later discovered that a 15-year-old girl falsely accused Santana of making advances toward her, prompting two men to carry out a deadly retaliation. Both assailants were convicted, one receiving life without parole. Santana's death rocked the entertainment world and devastated fans who had grown up watching him. His funeral was attended by many fellow actors and celebrities, all mourning not just the loss of a star, but of a kind and focused young man who had his life ahead of him. Merlin Santana's legacy lives on through reruns of the shows he helped make iconic and the inspiration he continues to offer to young actors of color. He was taken far too soon, but the joy he brought to television remains timeless. Michelle Doris Thomas, 30 years old, 1998. Michelle Doris Thomas brought warmth, wit, and light to every role she played. Born on September 23, 1968, in Boston and raised in New York, Thomas was destined for the stage. Her father was Dennis D.T. Thomas, a saxophonist for the funk band Kool and the Gang. From an early age, Michelle displayed a natural talent for acting, singing, and comedy. Her big break came in the mid-1980s when she joined the cast of The Cosby Show as Justine Phillips, the loyal and intelligent girlfriend of Theo Huxtable. Her portrayal added dimension to Theo's character and gave audiences a glimpse of young black love depicted with humor and respect. But her most iconic role came shortly after, when she was cast as Myra Monkhouse on Family Matters. As Myra, Michelle played the quirky and head-over-heels girlfriend of Steve Urkel, brought to life by Jaleel White. While Myra's obsessive adoration was a recurring gag, Thomas infused the character with sincerity and comedic brilliance, making her one of the most beloved recurring characters in the show's later seasons. Her chemistry with the cast, especially with White, was undeniable, and fans embraced her as a vital part of the show's success. Behind the scenes, however, Michelle was fighting a devastating battle. In 1997, she was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of stomach cancer, intra-abdominal desmoplastic small round cell tumor. Though she underwent surgery to remove a tumor the size of a grapefruit, her health quickly declined. Remarkably, she continued working through her illness, keeping her private struggle out of the spotlight. On December 23, 1998, Michelle Thomas passed away surrounded by her family and close friends. She was just 30 years old. Her death sent waves of grief across the entertainment industry. Tributes poured in from co-stars and fans alike, honoring her positivity, faith, and vibrant spirit. Michelle Thomas may have lived quietly, but she left behind an extraordinary legacy. Her performances weren't just entertaining, they were comforting, authentic, and real. She showed that young black women on television could be smart, funny, awkward, and lovable all at once. Her light was radiant, and though it dimmed too soon, it has never truly gone out. Otis Ray Redding Jr., 26 years old, 1967. Otis Redding was more than just a voice, he was a force of soul music whose influence continues to echo across generations. Born on September 9, 1941, in Dawson, Georgia, Redding grew up singing gospel in church and idolizing artists like Sam Cooke and Little Richard. By his teenage years, he had joined several bands, including Johnny Jenkins and the Pinetoppers, and was known across Macon for his powerful, raw vocal delivery. His big break came in 1962 when he recorded These Arms of Mine, a deeply soulful ballad that instantly established him as a rising star in Southern R&B. From there, Redding became the defining voice of Stax Records, recording timeless hits such as I've Been Loving You Too Long, Try a Little Tenderness, and Respect, which would later become an anthem for Aretha Franklin. Otis wasn't just a singer, he was a dynamic performer. On stage, he exuded passion and authenticity, pouring his soul into every lyric. By the mid-1960s, he was a headliner at venues like the Apollo Theater and even performed at the Monterey Pop Festival, where his crossover appeal was cemented. What many don't realize is that Redding was still in his mid-20s when he became a global sensation. In fact, one of his most iconic songs, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, was recorded just days before his tragic death. On December 10, 1967, while en route to a performance in Madison, Wisconsin, Otis Redding and 6 members of his band were killed in a plane crash. He was just 26 years old. The wreckage was discovered in Lake Monona, and only one band member survived. In a haunting twist of fate, Dock of the Bay was released posthumously in January 1968 and became his first #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. It marked a new musical direction for Redding, one that blended soul with introspective folk-pop sensibilities. Otis Redding's career lasted only 5 years, but his influence spans more than 5 decades. He helped shape the sound of soul music, paved the way for black artists to reach mainstream audiences, and left behind a body of work that feels as urgent and human today as it did then. Gone too soon, Otis was just getting started when the world lost him. Bashar Baraka Jackson, Pop Smoke, 20 years old, 2020. Pop Smoke didn't just emerge, he erupted. Born Bashar Baraka Jackson on July 20, 1999, in Brooklyn, New York, he grew up in Canarsie and initially gravitated toward sports before finding his calling in music. By his late teens, he had adopted the stage name Pop Smoke, a combination of Papa, a nickname from his grandmother, and Smoke, a name from childhood friends. His entry into rap was sudden, but his impact was immediate. In 2019, his breakout single, Welcome to the Party, introduced the world to Brooklyn drill, a genre inspired by Chicago drill and UK grime, but with its own dark, heavy bass and militant rhythm. Pop's deep, gravelly voice and gritty authenticity made the song a New York anthem. Follow-ups like Dior and collaborations with artists like Travis Scott, Nicki Minaj, and Quavo quickly followed, signaling that Pop Smoke wasn't just the sound of a moment, he was the future. His debut mixtapes, Meet the Woo and Meet the Woo 2, built immense momentum. He was named to several artists to watch lists and had begun crossing into fashion, performing at Paris Fashion Week and working on collaborations with designers like Virgil Abloh. Just days before his death, his debut studio album was nearing completion. Pop was preparing to take his brand global. But on February 19, 2020, Pop Smoke's life was violently cut short. He was staying at a rented home in the Hollywood Hills when armed intruders broke in around 4:30 a.m. During a reported robbery, he was shot and later pronounced dead at the hospital. He was only 20 years old. Authorities later arrested multiple suspects, including teens, in what was described as a targeted home invasion. Posthumously, his debut album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon was released in July 2020. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and spawned multiple hits, including The Woo and For the Night. Executive produced by 50 Cent, the album solidified Pop Smoke's legacy and proved his music could transcend the streets that shaped him. Pop Smoke's story is one of astonishing ascent and heartbreaking loss. In just over a year, he reshaped the New York rap landscape, opened doors for drill artists worldwide, and became a cultural icon for young black men striving to be heard. Though his life was brief, his voice and vision still echo loudly. Samuel Cooke, Sam Cooke, 33 years old, 1964. Sam Cooke was the architect of soul music. His voice, presence, and songwriting helped lay the foundation for modern R&B. Born on January 22, 1931, in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and raised in Chicago, Cooke began his musical journey in his teens as the lead singer of the gospel group the Soul Stirrers. Even then, his smooth, velvet voice stood out, drawing crowds well before mainstream audiences knew his name. In the mid-1950s, Cooke made the daring decision to cross over from gospel to secular music, a move that was controversial at the time but proved visionary. His first hit, You Send Me, topped the Billboard Pop and R&B charts in 1957 and signaled the start of a groundbreaking solo career. Hits like Chain Gang, Wonderful World, Twistin', The Night Away, and Cupid soon followed, showcasing his unmatched ability to blend gospel-rooted emotion with catchy, accessible songwriting. Beyond the music, Cooke was a trailblazer behind the scenes. He was one of the first black artists to start his own record label and publishing company, fighting for ownership and creative control, something virtually unheard of for black musicians in the 1960s. He was also a committed civil rights activist. His 1964 anthem, A Change Is Gonna Come, remains one of the most powerful songs in American protest history, released at the height of racial tension. Tragically, Cooke's life ended in mystery and controversy. On December 11, 1964, he was shot and killed at a Los Angeles motel under circumstances that sparked decades of speculation. Official reports stated it was a justifiable homicide, but many fans and historians have questioned the story. Sam Cooke was just 33 years old. Despite his short life, Cooke's influence on music and culture is incalculable. His blend of style, substance, and soul made him a pioneer, one who paved the way for countless artists from Otis Redding to Aretha Franklin to Beyoncé. He wasn't just the king of soul, he was a kingmaker whose legacy still shapes the music industry today. Derek McAllister Jr., Speaker Knockers, 19 years old, 2014. Derek McAllister Jr., better known as Speaker Knockers, was a self-made star before he even turned 20. Born on November 6, 1994, in New York and raised in South Carolina, he never signed to a major label, but that didn't stop him from building a massive online following and influencing a new wave of internet-driven hip-hop. He began making beats as a teenager, teaching himself how to produce music using FL Studio. Initially crafting instrumentals for other artists, Speaker Knockers soon realized he had the voice and style to carry his own tracks. He was a pioneer in the melodic trap subgenre, mixing catchy, auto-tuned vocals with heavy, ambient beats. By 17, his YouTube channel had taken off. Songs like Lonely, Rico Story, and Dap You Up became viral sensations, racking up millions of views and building him a loyal fanbase. He was praised for his storytelling, particularly in the Rico Story trilogy, which followed a fictional character through a cinematic street narrative. He wasn't just making music, he was crafting digital sagas that resonated with youth navigating similar struggles. Unlike many artists, Speaker Knockers did everything independently. He produced, recorded, and marketed his music from his home studio, showing how social media and raw talent could rival industry machines. His popularity grew rapidly, and many believed he was on the verge of major stardom. But on March 4, 2014, the 19-year-old was found unresponsive in his garage in Columbia, South Carolina. The cause of death was reported as a heart attack, with no signs of foul play. His sudden death stunned fans and the music community, especially because it came just as he was preparing for a breakout year. In the years since, his legacy has only grown. His music continues to be discovered by new audiences, and artists like Lil Uzi Vert, NBA Youngboy, and Lil Mosey have cited him as an influence. Despite never topping charts, Speaker Knockers helped redefine how young black artists can build careers from their bedrooms, and leave a lasting mark. Tara Korea McMullen, 16 years old, 2005. Tara Korea McMullen's life ended long before it truly began. Born on May 24, 1989, in Westminster, Vermont, she was raised in Los Angeles and began acting as a teenager. Despite having no formal training, she displayed a natural emotional depth that earned her roles in commercials and small TV appearances. Her breakout came in 2004 when she was cast as Graciela Reyes, a reformed gang member on the CBS legal drama Judging Amy. Though just 15 when she landed the role, Tara's portrayal was hauntingly mature. Her character struggled to leave gang life behind, giving viewers a gritty, humanized glimpse into inner-city violence. Her performance drew praise from critics and fans alike, and it seemed she was headed toward a promising acting career. Off-screen, however, Tara's personal life began to mirror the troubled roles she portrayed. She reportedly began dating a known gang member several years her senior, and her mother. Trayvon Flowers, Trey Savage, 26 years old, 2020. Trayvon Flowers, known in the rap world as Trey Savage, was a respected figure in the Chicago drill scene. Born on August 4, 1993, he rose to prominence as a member of Glory Boys Entertainment, GBE, the same crew that introduced the world to Chief Keef. Though he never reached commercial stardom, Trey was well known in underground circles for his sharp lyrics, loyalty to his roots, and raw storytelling. Trey began releasing music in his late teens and quickly developed a reputation for being one of the more focused and lyrically skilled voices in the drill movement. Collaborating with fellow GBE artists like Fredo Santana and Ball Out, he featured on numerous mixtapes and became a staple on Chicago's South Side. His music reflected the trauma of his environment, stories of survival, violence, and the emotional cost of street life. But unlike many, Trey managed to avoid major legal trouble and was seen by some as a calm and grounded presence within his crew. On June 19, 2020, Trey Savage was shot and killed while driving in Chicago's Chatham neighborhood. He was hit in the neck and shoulder, and his car continued down the road before crashing. He was only 26. Police reported the incident as a targeted shooting, adding to the long list of young men lost to gun violence in the city. Though not a household name, Trey's death was deeply felt in Chicago's rap community. Tributes poured in from fans and local artists who viewed him as a promising figure taken too soon. Like many drill artists, Trey used his voice to paint a portrait of his reality, unfiltered and honest. Trey Savage's life may not have made national headlines, but to those who followed his journey, he was a voice of the neighborhood. His death, like his music, reminds us how fragile life can be when talent grows up under fire. Tupac Amaru Shakur, 25 years old, 1996. Tupac Shakur was more than a rapper. He was a revolutionary spirit wrapped in the skin of a poet, activist, and provocateur. Born on June 16, 1971, in East Harlem, New York, Tupac was raised by his mother, Afeni Shakur, a member of the Black Panther Party. That political consciousness shaped his worldview from an early age. By the time he was a teenager, he was writing poetry and attending the Baltimore School for the Arts, where his artistic brilliance began to shine. He broke into the music industry as a backup dancer and rapper for Digital Underground, but it was his 1991 solo debut Tupacalypse Now that announced a new voice in hip-hop, angry, intelligent, and fearless. His lyrics tackled police brutality, racism, poverty, and inner-city survival. Songs like Brenda's Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, and Dear Mama showed that Tupac could be both militant and deeply empathetic. By his early 20s, he had released multiple platinum albums, starred in critically acclaimed films like Juice and Poetic Justice, and become one of the most polarizing figures in America. His legal troubles, feuds, and outspoken nature made him a lightning rod for controversy, but they also cemented his status as a symbol of resistance. On September 7, 1996, after attending a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, Tupac was shot multiple times in a drive-by shooting. He died 6 days later on September 13 at just 25 years old. His murder, like Biggie's, remains officially unsolved and has fueled decades of speculation and conspiracy. Tupac's posthumous releases, including The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory and Until the End of Time, solidified his place as a prophet of hip-hop. His words continue to resonate in movements for justice and his influence stretches across music, fashion, politics, and education. Tupac didn't just rap, he provoked, inspired, and challenged a generation. His fire burned fast, but its light has never dimmed. Yace Dwayne Ricardo Onfroy, XXXTentacion, 20 years old, 2018. Yace Onfroy, widely known as XXXTentacion, was a troubled genius whose raw, emotional music resonated with millions. Born on January 23, 1998, in Plantation, Florida, he experienced a difficult childhood filled with instability, legal issues, and deep emotional wounds. By his teenage years, he turned to music as a form of therapy, expressing his pain, rage, and vulnerability through haunting vocals and experimental production. He first gained traction on SoundCloud in 2015 with the aggressive, distorted track Look at Me, which soon went viral. But as his fame grew, so did the controversy. XXXTentacion faced serious legal charges, including allegations of domestic abuse, which he denied. These allegations polarized fans and critics, creating a shadow over his career even as his music climbed the charts. In 2017, his debut album 17 was a surprise hit, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200. The project was a departure from traditional rap. It leaned into acoustic elements, melancholic lyrics, and themes of suicide, trauma, and emotional numbness. A year later, his follow-up album, Debuted at number 1, led by the hit single Sad, which later earned him a posthumous Billboard award. Despite his chaotic public image, many saw XXXTentacion as a deeply conflicted soul seeking redemption. He often spoke of wanting to change, to use his platform for positivity, and to support mental health awareness. His online presence became softer in tone, and he frequently shared messages of healing and growth. On June 18, 2018, while shopping for a motorcycle in South Florida, he was shot and killed during an armed robbery. He was only 20 years old. 4 suspects were later arrested, and in 2023, 3 men were convicted of first-degree murder. XXXTentacion's death left a complicated legacy. For many, he was a voice for the voiceless, someone who gave shape to the darkest emotions young people face. For others, his personal history made him a symbol of unresolved accountability. But one thing is clear, his music changed the sound and emotional depth of a generation. XXXTentacion was flawed, vulnerable, and unfiltered, and in a world that often silences pain, he made millions feel seen. These 20 young black stars were rising legends, gifted, influential, and gone far too soon. From the soulful brilliance of Sam Cooke to the raw power of Pop Smoke, their stories reflect both triumph and tragedy. But here's the hard question: are we doing enough to protect the dreams of the next generation? Or are we losing too many to violence, addiction, and neglect? Backhand index pointing down. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think would have changed the world if they had more time? Speech balloon. Let's talk about it on Legends of Black Excellence. Clapperboard. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.